Hi and welcome to IBTimes preview of the FA Cup final between Arsenal and Aston Villa. I'm joined by IBTimes sports reporter Tony Mogan, and Tony, we'll start off by looking at Arsenal, who, despite an impressive final day 4-1 win over West Brom in the Premier League, had seemed to be flatlining before that. Which Arsenal do we expect to turn up on the day?
It's difficult with Arsenal. That run prior to that Swansea game at home, they're one of the informed sides in Europe. The winning streak was carrying them, the form that they'd been looking for season on end, that would have had them challenging for titles. Unfortunately, it came about 5 months late for Arsenal this season. But that run leading up to Swansea's game was immaculate. Everyone was scoring goals, people were playing with freedom again. Players like Ozil were finding the form we've expected from him for so long. 2 home games at the end of the season. Arsenal was placed in the Champions League, was already confirmed then. I think we can understand why their foot may have come off the gas slightly. But if there was any doubt of that falling off completely, that was totally shattered when they absolutely hammered West Brom on the final day.
I'll move on to the other side, Aston Villa, who I don't think back in January any of their fans would have expected them to be here now in a cup final, but they've had a real renaissance under new manager Tim Sherwood until right at the very end of the season, where they've suffered some horrendous defeats. It's 6-1 thrashing by Southampton and a loss at home to Burnley.
It's a bit similar to Arsenal in that respect. That 6-1 hammering Swansea wasn't so much a blip, rather a catastrophe for them in terms of the result, not in terms of their season. The work was already done by that point, effectively. But prior to that, Aston Villa and Tim Sherwood proved why there was still some life left in this team. The club under him have survived relegation in the most unthinkable circumstances. This was a team who hadn't scored for a whole month period in October and again in January, hadn't won a game in 10 games prior to his arrival. So he knew what he'd put into this group of players. If you look at what he did against Liverpool, where he completely matched and outclassed Brendan Rodgers in a tactical battle, I don't think he'll be that naive to do that against Arsenal. I'm sure he's very aware that Arsenal are a much more capable side. They're a lot tired, they're a lot more effective at finding space that Aston Villa may expose themselves to. But Sherwood's shown that he has the craft to adapt to these games, and he'll know what's called for and what's not called for.
And how do you expect the game to pan out then? Because last year we had Arsenal win the cup final, who were 2 goals down to Hull very early on. They seemed very nervous going into the final. Will they be more confident this time? Will Villa be nervous being in their first cup final in years?
From the Arsenal perspective, we saw shades of that against Reading. With all due respect to Reading, they were rightfully in the FA Cup in that stage, but their league form had been awful. You would have thought Arsenal, given the form they were in at the time, would completely dominate that, but no, Arsenal did show signs of that. But I think the big difference here now from last year is that 9-year barren spell that hung over them is gone. So Arsenal will go into this not feeling the pressure that was there last year. When you think back to the quarter-final when they beat Manchester United as well, people were talking about this being Manchester United year to get back into FA Cup winning form. Arsenal dismissed that. They like this competition, they want to win it again. I don't see why they can't do it again this time. For Villa, Sherwood knows what to get out of these players when it matters. When the team was dead and gone, it seemed, he knew how to lift them, and he can do that again. There's no reason why he can't do that.
So if you have to stick your head out and give a prediction for the match, what will you go for?
Probably Arsenal. I think we may see some of the sort of stagnant, slow start we saw from them last season in their FA Cup final against Hull, not necessarily for 2 goals behind in 20 minutes. But I think Sherwood will know how to play against them. I don't think it'll be enough though.
Well, for all our coverage of the FA Cup, go to our website, ibtimes.co.uk.